Hey, what's up? It's Terry Corso from Alien Ant Farm. We just announced today a tour for Australia, New Zealand in February 2025. Can't wait to get there.
Beautiful, Terry. Thanks for joining us today, brother.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for having me.
my pleasure. So, as you just said, Alien Ant Farm have announced an Australian tour for February 2025, starting in Brisbane on February the 7th, before going through Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and finishing in Perth on February the 12th. Like, it's been a while between drinks, mate. You must be chomping at the bit to get back out here.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I can't even think of how long it's been. I think it was 2002 maybe or something like that. We were down there for Big Day Out, and it's been quite some time. I don't know how Australia evaded us for so long.
Invaded us. It's a nice way of putting it. So you mentioned it was
Evaded.
probably around the turn of the century that you were here last, bro. So your show now would be a hell of a lot different to what it was back then.
Yeah, well, back then we were just like kind of like young ass kids full of piss and vinegar, like jumping around like crazy. Our knees weren't shot, and nah, I mean, the show is, we probably kind of swapped out some of that, like that young aggressiveness for some, I mean, we still like to have fun on stage, but there might be a little bit of a more mature vibe, but people like mature sometimes, I guess.
You mean a couple more interludes while you pop the Panadol and get the knees back in place and
Or
stuff?
like, maybe a cod on stage to take a nappy. On song four, song five, we might need a nap.
I'll make sure I got
I'm
a
just
couple of
fucking around.
Red Bulls in the audience so I can chuck up to you.
Sugar free, please.
So in all seriousness, so bro, like for the benefit of those that maybe weren't alive back last time you came or that haven't seen the band before, like run us through a typical Alien Ant Farm live show.
We just we've all kind of grew up loving to learn our instruments real good, and we what's kind of cool about the band that kind of shines through in the set is just like how long we've been a band together, and known each other since we were kids, and it's just there's a bit of like telepathy maybe going on, and it's just we still try to have fun with it, but still play a good show. You know what I mean? And not hit too many clams, hopefully, and try and connect with It's been a lot about connecting with like core fans lately, which is really cool. We've been out on tour a little bit, and we've been doing some festivals here and there, and the core fans are coming out of the woodwork for the new record, and that's exciting because it's just kind of like we've been doing this for so many years now, and on and off. Sometimes we're working, sometimes we're not, and we always seem to come back to it. But the whole time, it's like this growth of um, fans that have grown up with us, or even like parents that have turned us on to their kids and whatnot. So it's really been like a celebration in a way of like some of our older material and all the way up to our new material, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there too, mate. Like three of the four band members have been together since the start. So even though you might have had a few up and down periods, like being together, you still have that chemistry, like that. I suppose that youthful, exuberant chemistry every time you get out there on stage.
Yeah, like we've just been locked for so long musically, for better or for worse, whether we like it or not. um, but even with our with Tim on bass, man, he really like kind of filled out a part of us that we always kind of needed in a way. And yeah, so we're all very cohesive, like musically as well as brotherly, I guess, so to speak. And I think that kind of translates to something in the music for sure.
So you guys have been there, done that, playing around the world so many times, mate. So is there anything a crowd can do to pick you guys up even more? Like something a crowd can do and make you guys walk out and just go, fuck yes, this is the day we're gonna nail it.
Uh, I don't know. There's something about like just getting crazy to music. Like I catch myself sometimes when I'm listening to something that really like kind of hits. It's just like letting it kind of move you. There's something to that. Like I hope everybody starts jumping around like crazy and acting like they've been waiting like since the turn of the century for us to come down.
Well, it's not as if they have.
Right. Well, you know what I mean. I just want everyone to like kind of a lot of people like I mean ironically, or like a turn of the century, so to speak, like people have grown up on some of our songs, like particularly the anthology tracks and even some of the truant stuff, etc. And if they kept up with us, they know all the stuff. And some of that stuff is just really, I mean, if they've waited this long to hear it live, it's going to be hopefully like some kind of weird like religious experience, and they just let it take over and just like flail their bodies. And that's always kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, because you know that they came up on the music, and it played a part in their life, and that's always like you get a charge out of that for sure.
Sure. And of course, you're bringing with you CKY as part of a co-headlining tour. So, what's your Sermon's touring partners? You guys have done a bit together in the past.
Actually, no. We've probably played some festivals together in the past, and we were definitely like kind of peers in the world back in the day, and we're both bands that have kind of kept our legacies alive through the years. And actually, this we're gonna before we come to Australia, we'll be going to Europe and the UK with CKY, and that'll be our first time kind of touring with them. So we're excited about it because it should have probably happened a long time ago.
For sure. What exactly does a co-headlining tour mean? Does it mean one night you'll play last, next night they'll play last, or what does that actually mean?
We haven't really, I think we're playing last every night, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've seen co-headlining shows where they do that, and sometimes I've seen them where they're locked. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where it's the same every night, but it's still considered a co-headline.
It just
So
means
we
you.
both kind of, I think we both kind of like equally put down our work, and like kind of blanketed the earth in our own ways as far as like trying to push our bands. And I think that wherever we are on the bill, it's like impossible for us to both play at the same time, right? So so like wherever we are on the bill, it's just we're both warriors in our own right.
Yeah, damn straight. And you guys will be touring on the back of your latest album, Mantras, which came out in April. So, how's the response been for that?
Actually, really good. Everybody's been pumped.
Hmm?
I mean, like, it's in a world of like trollism, and social media is just so, like short attention span. It's actually been really positive, like surprisingly positive. All the YouTube comments, if you care to go through them, or social media has been really on the rise in the last few months. We've kind of put a little effort into that and grown it incredibly over the last like half a year or whatever. And it seems like everyone is really just kind of into it. There's a lot of comments of like, this reminds me of Anthology, or like just kind of comparisons in a way, which is cool because the record was like a bit of a hard reset for us after pandemics and where whatever the fuck happened, like whether it was live stuff for all of us, or just kind of people needing to like kind of grow a little bit and find themselves, or like what I mean, like just like kind of mulling over music for like what seems like way too long
Yeah.
of periods of time. It all kind of equated into like a hard reset for us, where we ultimately, eh, I think, for the benefit of us, got back to who we were originally, like kind of like Anthology days. You have a couple of you have like your whole life to write your first record, and you have
Yeah.
like 3 months to write your second record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a way, we got to like experience a bunch of fucking life, whether it was good or bad, or anything in between, and then kind of come back and you know, kind of not really reinvent ourselves, but kind of reestablish, like who we are kind of as a band, and it's been received pretty well. We're all pretty excited and proud of the record, so it's good to see a lot of good feedback on it.
Sweet. Now, of course, mate, like there's a lot of people out there who only know Alien Ant Farm for Smooth Criminal and movies, but there's so much more to the band than just those two songs. So for people like that, like give us three other
Well,
Alien
thank
Ant
you for
Farm.
saying that.
No worries at all, brother. but for those people, like
It's nice of you.
tell us three more Alien Ant Farm songs they can go out and listen to get to know the band a bit more before you come to Australia.
Oh wow. Shoot, I'd say go for like you maybe like you got to kind of pull from like all the different records, but from besides anthology, like maybe if you're talking like Truant, if you're talking Truant, I'd probably say maybe something like Sarah Wynn, because it's got this like upbeat prog to it that's really cool. Or you know what? I retract that. From okay, so from sorry, from Truant, I wanna throw in Tia Lupe, because I think that really like kind of it's like a kind of a quasi like traditional Cuban guaguanco kind of style Latin feel song, and it kind of represents how we've always kind of like to get outside the box, and like kind of straddle genres, if you will. And then maybe I'd jump up to Up in the Attic, which was actually a record that I wasn't on. But I was out of the band for a few years, and they put a record out. But the guy that replaced me, Joe Hill, was actually a friend of mine from junior high that I knew forever. It's like goes to show how small the towns are
Yeah.
around here. But and I love him as an artist, so it was like really cool to be replaced by someone so cool. But there's a song on there called Forgive and Forget, and I think that's just like really cool, like example of like upbeat, like melodic, catchy chorus, like which is but about like love stories, kind of like what we've always been singing about. And then I'd say go listen to on Mantras, go listen to Storms Over, which is just a song that's kind of like it's kind of deep for us. You know what I mean? We wrote it before the pandemic, and it's just like so much craziness has been going on in the world, and it's one of those songs. You know what I mean? It's one of those so much craziness in the world songs. We need to chill out
Yeah.
songs, I
Everyone
guess,
needs some of
if you
them.
will. But people have been digging that song a lot. We've been playing it in our set, and people kind of it's got like a steady kind of groove that people are taking to. So I guess those would be the ones. Tia Lupe, Forgive and Forget, and Storms Over.
Very good. Have you got a little bit more time left, mate, or do you have to run?
No, I got a little bit of time.
Awesome. So I want to have a bit of a history lesson here with Alien Ant Farm, bro. Like you guys started back in 1996. So what was the musical climate like that gave birth to the band, and where did it fit in initially?
In the beginning, you mean?
Yeah,
Oh wow, the beginning was a crazy time for just kind of like music. It was all the very beginnings of fucking new metal, I guess, right? What would be new metal
yeah, yeah,
in 96, because it came around 99 and 2000, and we were playing the club circuit with like bands like System of a Down, and in LA, because we were in LA working it, before we actually got signed, and we were starting to make as big a circles as we could, because that's why you did it back then. There was no internet or whatever. You just kind of swap shows with bands from other cities, and you kind of try and make like bigger circles to get
yeah,
out of
right,
your
yeah,
town. But we were playing, a lot in LA, because that's the closest town for us. That, I mean, we're like an hour inland from LA. And so, we were just like every weekend down there pounding the pavement with like bands before they got big like us, like our that were, like still kind of just like cutting their teeth, like System of a Down, We used to play with Static X all the time when they were just called Static. And yeah, and there was just all kinds of new bands coming out, like Korn was coming in from Bakersfield all the time, and then they moved to Huntington Beach, which is just like another hour the other direction from LA, and they were playing all the time. The Deftones were coming down from Sacramento
Wow, what a
and playing a
time.
lot. And then eventually, we were out there pounding the pavement, and then we made friends with Papa Roach and started just like every weekend swapping shows up and down the coast because they were from Sacramento area, like the Bay Area, Central California, and we're from LA, kind of Palm Springs area, Southern California. And so it was like perfect for us to like swap shows, stay with each other at each other's houses. And but it was pretty cool because I don't know, we all didn't know we were like fucking new metal or whatever. Or, we were kind of like trying to dodge it all the time because they try and group us in with everybody, and like we were always kind of like, I don't know, we were young and ornery and fancied ourselves as like kind of, like more eclectic than everyone or whatever. So we were always like, we're not new metal, we're new row metal. If you remember, like new romantic movement, like back in the '80s, we're because we always write about love song. We always write love songs anyway. So we were calling ourselves neuro metal, and just to be smartasses, you know what I mean? But none of us knew really, there was a moment where it was just kind of like a cool new scene and a new movement, and like these exciting new bands were coming out, and it was a fashion, it was totally cultural and like and lifestyle in a way, like it was all meshed into like the skate scene and like the snowboarding, because in Southern California where we live, you could fucking triple threat. You could snowboard, skate, and surf in one day if you
Fuck.
do it right. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so it's just easy for shit to become super lifestyle here, and that's what it was. It was like a cool scene to be a part of, to be honest. And like Corin used to do party buses out to LA, like where they'd rent like a the kind of like a granny bus that you see like going to Vegas or something. You
Yeah.
rent those and you sell you could have alcohol on there or whatever, and you sell the tickets, and we were like shipping in like groups like or like buses full of people to these LA clubs that were like at least 50, 55 people a pop. And the clubs really loved that. So we just were like playing down there almost every weekend down
That's
in
great.
Hollywood. And it was just fun. It was like a fun time to be like a young local band. I think nowadays it's like, it might be a little harder to be a band, it's easier because of the internet, but it's also in a weird way, it's a double-edged sword. I think like there's so much saturation, and
Yeah, there
there's
is.
so much like selection, like there's just a band, everybody's in a band now. Back then it was a little more mystical and cool.
Yeah. Now, I think perhaps the coolest thing you guys have ever done is name your debut album Greatest Hits. Like was that youthful confidence? Was it tongue in cheek? Was it
Just
a
yeah,
statement?
yeah, youthful arrogance. I'd even call it arrogance instead of confidence. But we were just kids. We were just being jackasses. We were never trying to be too serious. Ant Farm was always kind of, I mean, it's like it's easy to take away from us that we were just kind of like goofing and having fun. But when it came to like playing our instruments and music, like that's where I think we tried to do our best in those areas, to where the rest was just kind of like fun and gravy.
Yeah. I think it's the coolest thing ever, mate. Like I was doing the research last night and I read through that and I've just gone, that is so fucking cool that a band in their first record can call it greatest hits. Like
Yeah.
props to you,
Well,
bro.
and then anthology, what the fuck, like we could have put a box set out maybe for our first. We're like Benjamin Button over here, like growing backwards. But anyways, we thought it was funny. I'm glad you think it's funny too, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that were like, those guys are pricks.
I reckon it's hilarious, bro. It's like it says everything you need to know about the band in one name. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Hey, I think so too. So that's awesome that you say that, because I think that's like the ultimate compliment.
Very cool. And how would you say that your music's changed, I guess, then since Greatest Hits to Mantra?
Well, greatest hits, we were just like trying to like stuff a lot of notes into a small amount of time. And when we first started the band, we wanted to be like Mr. Bungle, or something crazy, like just like bouncing around from genre to genre, which we kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like an element of like heavy guitar, kind of like driving riff rock to our early stuff. And then that went into anthology, probably the same thing, like kind of riff rock, guitar rock, but it was produced by like actual like dudes that did records for like big bands. And then, the next record was kind of like us. I always like to, I would never compare us to Weezer because we're huge Weezer fans. Like we worship Weezer, but like there's like a vibe to Truant that to me that I like to compare in a way to like, on our little level, like our Pinkerton in a way. Like it was just this cool, like kind of experimental record that we did with like some like they did that with Rick Ocasek, like we did it with the guys from STP, like it's this growth period of a record, sophomore attempt, so it was like it was destined to fail out of the gate, of course, you know what I mean. So but we're super proud of it because we think that there's some really special, unique music on there that was like absolutely a blast to write and record, and we learned a lot in those sessions, and then we went and did like stuff like we put out Always and Forever, where we wrote with top liners and stuff, urban guys like rap dudes and shit, like fucking we were trying to do all kinds of weird, just interesting stuff, and that record, it was as cohesive as it was. It kind of fell under the radar because of weird label problems, but ultimately, 9 years later from that, we got to Mantras, where, like I said earlier, we found the best thing to do was to kind of get back to that kind of riff rock from the early days, like that kind of quasi metal with all of our influence, like just a big tostada of all of our fucking influences, and all of our experiences, and then maybe mixed up with like some of our culture and art, and like just who we've become as adults and parents and survivors, etc. So it's been quite a spectrum, to answer your question in a long kind of way. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So
Fantastic.
yeah, so
Very good. All right, Jerry. Well, thanks very much for your time today, bro. Been a pleasure speaking with you.
yeah,
Alien Ant Farmer in Australia with CKY for the first time in over 2 decades, starting February 7th in
holy
Brisbane.
shit, when you say it like that.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? But I'll be coming to the Brisbane show, brother. So hopefully you get to catch up and have a beer and a Red Bull.
I would love that. Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
All right, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah. Have fun in Japan.
Shall do, brother. We'll see you next year.